And there, as Bill Perrins brings her in from the right, you've got a very brief sound of the famous Vulcan howl, the noise produced by those four Rolls-Royce Bristol Olympus 202 engines when they're put up to high power. It's a unique sound that only Vulcan makes. It's something to do with having two engines with a single intake in each wing. So, not only is she the rock star of the aviation world, she's the single most popular aeroplane in the country. Last year at the Farnborough Airshow, she was voted top by more than 16,000 Facebook people who were voted. And they would that result at the Bournemouth Airshow a few weeks later. So she's immensely popular. Everybody loves her. And the extraordinary thing is that you wonderful people have raised £22 million to get this aeroplane to where she is today, and we're immensely grateful. They've got the wheels down now. She's not going to land, obviously, but we will get to see her fly by with all of those wheels down. There are 18 of them if you want to count them. And we shall see her in various other poses as she comes by again. Fascinating to realise that the shape that was to become Vulcan was drawn on a scrappy piece of paper in 1946 by the same man who designed the fantastic Lancaster bomber, Roy Chadwick. And there is only 11 years between these two aeroplanes, the Lancaster and the Vulcan, but yet they look as if they might have come from different centuries. Here she is then, with the landing gear down. He's still here today signing books at the bookstore, and he told us some extraordinary things about rolling this aeroplane, rolling it off the top of a manoeuvre, climbing up and then rolling at the Farnborough Airshow. He did that himself. Sadly, we're not allowed to do that these days, but maybe we'll get somewhere close. So the RAF got its first Vulcan in July 1956, with the Valiant and the Victor designed to carry the British nuclear deterrent during the Cold War. Last year it was 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of European communism, which eventually ended that Cold War. So this was an aeroplane that protected us from a nuclear holocaust. Bomb bay doors opening. You see that enormous bomb bay. Because the bomb bay is the heart of the bomber. There you go, Bombay to carry 21 1,000-pound bombs all the way from Ascension Island to the Falkland Islands in 1982, right at the end of Vulcan's operational career. So it was a record-breaking bombing run, the longest there had ever been at the time, more than 7,000 miles. It took 18 air-to-air refuelings, and they bombed the runway at Port Stanley, and they put it out of use for the occupying Argentine forces. Not for very long though, but what it did do was to tell the Argentines that if push came to shove, we could actually reach their mainland, as well as just the Falkland Islands. So that was in 1982. She should have gone into retirement at that stage, but she was so popular that she was kept on by the Royal Air Force as a display aircraft and eventually not retired until 1992. And as she comes back in front of us this time, think the bomb bay will still be open, but we can expect to see it close as she lines up again. Bomb bay no longer carrying bombs, of course, but carrying the names of people who have contributed to this amazing renaissance of an aircraft that nobody ever thought would fly again after the early 90s. In fact, what happened was a man called David Vulcan bought this last Vulcan along with all the spares, and another man called Dr. Rob Fleming came along, and between them they got this flying again. Everybody said it couldn't be done, she couldn't be got flying again, but she was, and she first flew again in 2007 and went on the display circuit in 2008. She was helped by the Heritage Lottery Fund, and they expected her to be flying for 5 years. Well, now she's been flying 7 years, so she's been flying significantly longer than anybody expected her to. This, as I said, will be her last season, not because of shortage of money and not even because of shortage of spares, but because the 3 technical authority companies have decided that they can't support her anymore. That's BAE Systems, Rolls-Royce and Marshall Aerospace. And without their support, she can't have a permit to fly, so after the end of this year, she will no longer be able to fly. Two pilots sitting up at the front, Kev Rubins and Bill Perrins, both fly and they both fly 787 Dreamliners as their day jobs, but they're both extremely experienced display pilots.
Hang on, let's see that. No, that's amazing.
In the days when Vulcan was a nuclear bomber, she was painted bright white. When she became a conventional bomber, and when she handed over the awesome responsibilities of the nuclear deterrence to the Royal Navy, she became this khaki painted, low-level conventional bomber. And it's an indication of how flexible this aeroplane was, that it was able to do that so easily.